Hi, I'm Ossi, and in this talk I will suggest a new look on opinions, taking an example, the film industry. Let me first introduce myself. I'm with the Information System Department in the University of Haifa. In my lab, the Social Content and Networks SCAN lab, we research computational social science and temporal complex networks. Here, I will discuss our research on determining the emotions evoked by films from their online reviews. Emotional experiences makes us want to share them with others. The sharing itself is often considered part of the experience. People were always eager to share their thoughts, experiences, and emotions publicly in front of friends and even strangers. Today, a major form of social sharing is online reviews. Over the past 2 decades, communication platforms emerged that enable the sharing of information, experiences, and opinions in the form of online reviews. Online reviews for products and services have surged in popularity, becoming a trusted, influential factor in consumers' decision process. When it comes to experienced goods, that is, products that can be evaluated after consumption, for example, books, music, hotels, restaurants, and films, online consumer reviews are particularly important because the item, for example, the book, can only be evaluated based on past users' experiences. The common wisdom in the computational social science is that online reviews reflect the consumer's opinions about the goods. Hence, the valence or the polarity of the review sentiment became the subject of much research and interest. Here, we claim that reviews reflect the emotions experienced by the reviewer while consuming the item. That is, the emotions that are expressed in a review reflect not only what the person feels towards the movie, that is, I love this film, but may also constitute a record of the emotions the person experienced while watching the film. And I will explain it a bit more. In literary and philosophy studies, emotions are generally defined as having a target or intentionality. We distinguish between two cases. The emotion can be targeted at a movie as an artifact, for example, admiration to the director or surprise at their choices, disappointment of an actor's performance, anger at a politically insensitive casting decision, etc. This is what we call emotions towards the movie. However, emotions can also be targeted at the fictional or non-fictional reality that is being depicted in the film or book. For example, trust in the hero, fear of a monster, grief in a response to a character death. This is what we call emotions evoked by watching the film and what we aim to measure. Restated in these terms, the central claim of our work is that movie reviews will provide a signal, not only about viewers' emotion towards the artifact or the people who created it, but also towards the characters and the situations that are being depicted. For example, in the film. Our hypothesis that reviews reflect emotions evoked by the film are especially relevant in the case of experienced goods such as films. The main pillar in the experience of watching films is the emotional one. For example, let us go back 120 years ago to January 1896 and to a cinema theater in Paris, where the first public showing of a 50-second black and white film took place. The film is called The Arrival of a Train at La Ciotat Station, and it uses for the first time what we would consider today to be very simple cinematic techniques: long and medium camera shots, close-up, and forced perspective. Here's a short clip from the film. The audience was so overwhelmed by the moving image of a life-size train coming directly at them that people screamed and ran to the back of the room. The film had a particularly lasting impact. Yes, it caused fear, terror, even panic. Well, that might be an urban legend, but emotional experience is a major incentive for watching films. The importance of emotions in films has long been recognized, as was the demonstrated ability of movies to elicit emotions in their audiences. Affective reaction triggered by emotions was found to be a powerful reason for box office success, and filmmakers use a variety of methods to elicit emotions in their audiences. Moreover, research in psychology shows that people share the emotions they had experienced, and that sharing an emotional experience is an integral part of the experience itself. So we claim that films create strong emotional experience, and we ask, can we determine these emotions that are evoked by films from their online reviews? We state our research questions as follows. Do online reviews reflect people's emotional experience, the emotions that the movie evoked? Is it possible to automatically detect this signal? Prior work has already established that reviews contain emotions, especially sentiment towards the item as an artifact. And we design a set of analysis to validate whether reviews also reliably reflect emotions that were experienced, that is evoked by watching the movie. For this study, we obtained a large dataset from the IMDB movie database site. IMDB offers a searchable dataset of over 185 million data items, for which we obtained over 1.5 million reviews and other metadata information for about 10,000 films released by Hollywood between 1972 and 2016. To account for review volume and validity of temporal information, we decided to consider only films released between 2003 and 2014, and we do not consider films with less than 30 reviews in order to have a large enough sample for each film. After data cleaning, our working data set contains almost 3,000 films with at least 30 reviews each, to a total of over 700,000 reviews. Additional collected information contains the ratings, genres, cast, synopsis, budget, and box office revenue if exists. In the upper graph, you see the bin distribution of reviews per film in our working set. Over 1,000 films have between 30 and 100 reviews each. The distribution has a long tail, with over 100 films having over 1,000 reviews each. Below is a genre detailed view. Most films are tagged with more than one genre, and in our tally are counted for each one. The most prevalent genre is drama, followed by comedy and thriller. We used the NRC lexicon created by Mohammed and Turn in 2013, which compared manual annotations for the 8 basic Plotchik's emotions: trust, fear, surprise, sadness, disgust, anger, anticipation, and joy. The lexicon was created by crowdsourcing to Mechanical Turk and has annotations for over 14,000 words. The prevalent approach to emotion detection in a text is based on the premise that emotion expressed in a text is the aggregate of the emotions of the words comprising it. We therefore look for the presence of appropriate effect words in the text. Each review is annotated using the NRC lexicon for the Plotchik 8 emotions. We created an emotional vector for each movie, termed its emotional signature, consisting of the 8 emotions of the Plotchik's wheel. To achieve an emotional signature of a movie, we first aggregated all emotional words from all reviews in each of the 8 Plotchik categories. Then, for each emotion, we count the number of occurrences of all words, that is, from all reviews of that film, that the lexicon association with that emotion. This is the emotion term frequency vector. We then normalize to account for the differences in the number of reviews and their length. The result is a vector of emotion values that represents the percentage of strengths of each emotion in that movie. We see here a box plot of the distribution of emotions across all films in our data set. The emotions have large variances, that is, differences between films. Even this simple result is an initial indication that what we measure is something that is measurable. It remains to offer indirect evidence that the signal represents what we assert, namely the emotions that each movie evokes in viewers. We continue to validate that emotional signature indeed captures the film's evoked emotions. We designed a set of validations, each designed to offer evidence that the emotional signature indeed reflects the emotions that the film evokes in viewers. That is, the emotional signature makes intuitive sense vis-a-vis the film we know, is similar between sequels, correlates with the emotions that subjects in a mechanical Turk experiment report experiencing, is similar to other movies of similar genre, can predict the genre a movie belongs to, and can explain two film success indicators, rating and gross. We visually depict the emotional signature of a movie using two methods. On the bottom, we see a radar graph, which is organized according to the Plotchik wheel of emotions. We refer to this kind of graph as a Plotchik radar, as it shows the Plotchik radar for we show the Plotchik radar for 5 selected films, demonstrating the use of the emotional signatures. We can see Friday the 13th, Django Unchained, Iron Man, Rio, and The Pianist. Above, we depict the same movies, but emphasize how these movies depart from the average by showing each emotion for each film compared to the mean value of that emotion across all films. It can be seen that the kids' animation film Rio has an emotional signature with very high joy compared to the average and compared to the other movies, high anticipation, and very low negative emotions such as anger, disgust, or fear. On the other side of the scale is The Pianist, a movie about a Polish Jewish musician's survival during World War II, which has the highest fear and sadness values among the 5. Both the Django Unchained and Friday the 13th are high on anger, sadness, and fear, but Friday the 13th is also high on disgust and very low on joy compared to the average. Iron Man is very low on sadness and the highest on trust compared to the other 4. These kinds of data explorations, which we found to have intuitive and reasonable interpretations, provide basic, if indirect, evidence that our measure captures what we intended. We continue to examine the emotional signatures of sequels. One prominent factor in the definition of sequels is the idea of repetition and re-experiencing. Jesse Cook in 2009 relates to a sequel as a framework in which formulation of repetition are to be found. Henderson in 2017 asserts that sequel production tends towards the formulaic, offering audiences more of the same. Based on the above, if our emotion vectors really do measure what we claim, then sequels should exhibit mostly the same emotional signature as their base movie. This analysis represents a kind of validity check, sometimes called face validity. To test this hypothesis, we looked at all sequels in our database. We found 50 sequels ranging from 2 to 6 movies per sequel. We examined the distances between the emotional signatures of films and their sequels and compared that to the distance between all films or all films in the same genre. The results are highly significant. The table here shows the measure for 7 cases in which the sequel and its base movie share the single genre label. In summary, sequels' emotions vectors are much closer to the base film than to other films in the same genre. Altogether, results show that emotion signatures of sequels are significantly closer to their base than to other movies, even in the same genre. These results provide one piece of evidence that the measure, which is based on emotion words in reviews, reflects the emotional experience. For the next step in establishing that our measure reflects what we intend, we compare the emotional signature of 15 selected films with the explicit statements provided by survey participants regarding the emotions they experience when viewing those films. This analysis demonstrates convergence validity, significant step in establishing that a proposed measure captures what we intend. We ran our experiment using workers on Amazon Mechanical Turk to maintain high external validity. We selected 15 films from different genres. We included only films that had at least 100 reviews and were relatively well known, measured according to the total gross amount. We tried to get a wide range of genres, including at least 2 movies of each of the main genres of action and adventure, drama, comedy, animation, and horror. Upon successful validation of 2 questions, the worker were given an explanation regarding the emotions. See the left figure. Finally, the worker was asked to rank each of the emotions for the movie he or she selected using a 7-point Likert scale from very low to very high, which you can see on the right figure. We analyzed the data as follows. First, we arranged the data into 2 long columns, with each row giving the emotion values for a single movie emotion pair according to both methods. The overall correlation between the 2 sets of numbers was 0.67, and it was significant. Second, we analyzed each movie separately. Results are presented in the upper table. For 11 out of the 15 movies, there was a significant correlation with only 8 numbers per correlation. Statistical significance is not easily obtained. We interpret this result as adding evidence that our vector captures something closely related to the emotions that a movie evokes, though the MTURK data is noisier for some movies than for others. We found that there is a correlation between how consistent the MTURK reports were for a given movie and the degree of correlation with our emotion vectors. Third, reversing the orientation, we examined which emotions showed higher correlation between the 2 methods across the 15 films. Results are presented in the lower table. Fear was the emotion with the highest correlation over all films in the experiment set. Joy, disgust, and sadness exhibited good correlations. Anger, surprise, and trust correlated moderately, yet were not significant. Anticipation correlated insignificantly and negatively. We suspect that a reason for this might be that the definition of anticipation, and to a lesser extent also trust, and their relation to the movie was not clear enough to the participants in the survey. The analysis of genre, which we turn on now, is especially important. Our first analysis calculates genre averages for drama, horror, and comedy. Consider only films that were assigned only that single label. Most films have several labels. 2 observations accord with what we would expect. First, within each genre, the relative strength of different emotions makes intuitive sense. Second, the total amount of emotion increases from comedy to drama, then horror. These 2 aligns with what we might expect. In a second analysis, we analyzed whether the emotions vectors were more alike within genres than between genres, as one would expect if the vectors reflect experienced emotions. For each of the 3 genres, we compare the average distance between 2 movies within the genre and between 1 movie from that genre and a second movie from a different genre. Results are shown in the lower table. It can be seen that the emotion vectors behave as expected. Finally, we wanted to do a bigger analysis that includes all movies, even though most belong to genre combinations with only a tiny number of other films. To overcome this problem, we define a measure of genre similarity between 2 movies. For each film, we generate a vector of 21 dummy variables representing its binary assignment with regard to each of the 21 different solo genres. We define the genre similarity between 2 films as the inverse of the Hamming distance between 2 movies on their 21-bit vectors. We find that there is a highly significant correlation between the Hamming distance in genres and the Euclidean distance of emotion vectors. That is, the more different the two movies are in the genre label, the more different they are in their emotions vector. Taken together, these analyses provide some support to our hypothesis that the review's emotion words at least partly represent the emotions evoked by the movie. We continue and suggest to predict the genre of a film from a film's emotional signature. In this particular case, the evidence is particularly powerful because we use the proposed emotional signature to predict genre, an attribute of the film that is known to be related to emotions. We trained several classifiers as well as an ensemble of classifiers utilizing WCA with its default parameters. As before, the test set for this experiment consists of films with a single genre label for the following three genres: drama, comedy, and horror. We conduct a 10-fold cross-validation experiment on the test set. Our experimental results show that the emotional signatures predict the genre with an average accuracy of 0.9 and an average area under the curve of 0.968. Hence, when a film belongs to one genre, it can be predicted by an emotional signature extracted from its online reviews. And we continue with success prediction. We look for both rating predictions and box office success. Our predictive models include not only the movie's emotional signature, but also the genres. Most importantly, the interactions between the two. The reason is that, for example, ratings and enjoyment may depend on what kind of experience one was expecting or intending when choosing the film. In the extreme example, sometimes a viewer seeks a negative emotion such as fear, and then will choose a horror movie in order to experience that. Or disgust, maybe more for horrors. So the rating prediction, we found that many emotion and genre interactions were indeed significant. Negative emotions such as trust, negative emotions and trust, surprise, and anticipation are correlated with high rating over all genres. For box office success, only anticipation was significant across all genres. The pattern of these interaction results makes sense if the emotion vectors reflect the emotions that people experience during the film. Hence, we believe that this supports our claim. So to summarize, the signal of how people felt in a movie can be reliably picked up from online reviews, and an idea of emotional signature is meaningfully conceived and can be measured in a way that proves useful. This means that online reviews contain not only how people felt towards the object, the item, in this case the film, but also how the film made them feel, the emotions that were elicited while watching the film. We do find something that is interesting. Our analysis provide a strong case in favor of reconsidering the usefulness of genre labels as they are currently used. There is no accepted industry definition for the various movie genres. What we saw in the data is that each movie is labeled with its own idiosyncratic mixtures of labels. This raises questions about the meaningfulness of the labels altogether. We propose that an emotion-based approach may have something to offer in lieu of idiosyncratic combinations of genre labels. And for future work, while our analysis picked up clear and strong signal, it remains to develop a model to distinguish between the two signals, the sentiment and emotions towards the film artifact, and the emotions that were invoked by the film. And we would like to show some managerial applications. Researchers, producers, and others might find interest in following similar comparison as we did for actors or directors. To calculate the emotional signature of an actor, our method requires to aggregate all reviews of all films in which the actor has participated. While not every actor affects the emotional characteristic of a movie he or she participated in, some actors have a more distinct emotional signature than others. And you can see here the emotional signatures of Jim Carrey, Owen Wilson, Kevin Bacon, and Bruce Willis. Same goes for directors, and we show distinct signatures for Quentin Tarantino, Nora Ephron, and Steven Spielberg. Another future work which we have already examined is how would one explore an emotional space of films. First phase, we built this panel and let researcher analyze and see how they explore films using their emotional signatures. And with this, I would like to finish and thank my collaborators, David Bodoff, Nadim Bader, Yael Albo, and Joel O'Neill. And thank you very much. And if you want to ask any questions, I'm here. Thank you.